This is the analysis of section 6 of the Aeneid. So at this point, Aeneas has realised that he's lost Creusa, and he's desperately trying to find her. So the first line here, we've got two bits of emphatic positioning. We've got ausus at the start of the line, so having dared, and umbram at the end of the line, which is the shadow. Now both these words show us how brave Aeneas is being. Obviously, the word daring suggests that he's being brave, he's taking a risk here. And also the word umbram at the end shows that he's shouting through the dark. He can't see what's ahead of him. He doesn't know whether there's any more Greeks who might attack him. And yet he's not bothered. He's focused totally on finding Creusa. So those two words show how bold and brave he's being at this point. Yaktare is a strong word. It means hurl. So this is actually a metaphor, because he's not just shouting her name, he's hurling words out into the darkness. So again, this strong word shows how desperate he is, and therefore how brave he is, because he's solely focused on that one goal of finding Creusa. As well as being very brave and desperate, he's also doing this for absolutely no reason. We know he's not going to find Creusa. We know that she has already died. So ne quiquam on line 770, which is emphatically positioned again, means in vain. So you see that no matter what he does, he's not going to succeed here. He's not going to find her. And the repetition of iterunque again and again adds into this. This also shows that no matter how many times he calls her name, no matter how many times he shouts out to her, he's going to keep doing it over and over, but she's not going to turn up. So it's a combination of his desperation and also the futility of what he's doing, the fact that it's pointless. He's not going to succeed here. On the following line, we've got these two present participles, which are in the dative case. So quaerenti, which meant searching, and ruenti, which meant rushing, sorry. So they, again, are emphatically positioned. No surprises here. This is also an example, I think we've talked about this in the prose literature, of homoteleuton, which is a fancy, complicated, impossible to pronounce word for having the same endings. So you can see there you've got enti on both the endings. I think this turns up in Germanicus's speech when he's on his deathbed and he's instructing his friends on what they should do. So the common ending here just makes those words stand out, and it shows how quickly Aeneas is moving, how much he's trying to do to find Creusa. So it kind of highlights his mad rushing about. Shows how he won't stop trying to find her. On the next couple of lines, firstly, the things highlighted in blue are basically different words that mean ghost. Simulacrum we translated as ghost, umbra as shade, and imago as image or likeness. And they basically all mean the same thing. So these three different words, which describe Creusa's form, create more shock. Because you can imagine Aeneas kind of gradually realising, is she a ghost? Oh my God, she's a ghost. She's actually a ghost. And the fact that those three different words are used there shows how shocking it is to him as he realises that she has died and she is now a ghost. There's a clever little thing going on here as well, because umbra Creusa is here at the end of this line, and this has combined the two last words of two previous lines up here, umbram, and here, Creusa. So before it was Aeneas shouting through the shadow in order to find Creusa in those two lines, whereas down here those two words have been combined and now Creusa herself has become the shadow. So that means up here, when we had umbram to begin with, that was a nice little bit of foreshadowing. Sorry, this kind of counts as jumping about all over the place. Not exactly doing it in order, but it doesn't really make sense until you've seen the next few lines. So yeah, when he was shouting through the shadow, not only was that pretty bold, it also foreshadowed the fact that Creusa herself will become this darkness, will become this shade. So she has become the shadow. Okay. We've got a nice little bit of scansion on line 774 and 775. This is quite clever, actually. So the dactylic line here, fast-paced, is the description of Aeneas's reaction to seeing Creusa. So he's stunned, his hairs stand on end. So that's quick and it's shocking, and it all comes at him in a rush. But then on the following line is when he starts talking about Creusa speaking to him, and here we have spondees, it's spondaic. So she is much more slow-paced. So there's a contrast created here between Aeneas's initial panic and then Creusa's calmness. She then goes on to say very lovely things to him about how this isn't his fault, this was fate, and he shouldn't worry and get stressed out, etc. So you see here the contrast between Aeneas, completely overwhelmed and horrified by the situation, whereas Creusa is completely chilled and very calm and relaxed. And as well as those dactyls on line 774, we also have alliteration, which is another little bit of evidence of Aeneas's shock there as well. Okay. The words highlighted in green on 775 are historic infinitives. And these essentially do the same job as historic presents because, as we know, infinitives can have tenses, and these two are present tense. So the historic infinitives, just like historic presents, make this more vivid, make this feel like it's happening now. And it's a significant moment here because adfari means she spoke, literally in the present she speaks, and demere means she removed, so in the present she removes, and that's talking about her removing his cares. So this moment when Creusa, as a ghost, starts speaking to Aeneas is really vivid here, and it feels as if it's happening right now. So quite an exciting little moment. And then a kind of a bit of a weird thing that is more of a Latin idiom than anything. In the next couple of lines, 776 to 777, I've highlighted the U sounds here. And the U sounds are supposed to be sounds of love. I suppose that they are calming sounds as well. That kind of makes sense. An U sound in English would be calming. But they also reflect Creusa's love and affection for Aeneas. And there's some enclosing word order here in Sarno Dolori, because this is the moment where she's saying, why are you indulging in mad grief? In Sarno Dolori is mad grief. And the word indulgere, which represents Aeneas because he's the one indulging in this mad grief, is enclosed between the words mad and grief. And this is supposed to be an image of this grief completely overwhelming him. It's all consuming. So that's what the enclosing word order does there. It creates that image of grief consuming Aeneas. And she's having a bit of a go at him here. She's saying, why are you wasting your time getting so upset? Get over it, kind of thing. But that's why this phrase here is so important, and it's why it's emphatically positioned at the start of the line, because she then calls him sweet husband. So it is sweet in itself. She's being affectionate here. It's a nice, kind expression to show that, you know, she's telling him off because she loves him. Not because she's necessarily angry at him. She just wants him to move on and get on with his life, which is very generous of her, obviously. Also on this line, non sine I've highlighted here. This is a double negative, not without. She could just say with, but she says not without here. So this is litotes, which is just a fancy word for double negative. And litotes usually emphasizes what you're saying. So here she's saying these things do not happen, this is the present tense here, without the will of the gods. So what she's basically saying is these things happen with the will of the gods. But she's emphasizing how that means that what has happened here is fate. so he cannot deny it. So litote is just there, generally always used for emphasis. Okay, so she's kind of giving him the ideal excuse, which is it's happened and there's nothing you can do about it, and because it's happened, that was destiny. Move on and get on with what else you need to do. And to kind of emphasize this even more, we've talked lots about this word. She uses the word phas, which means like not just divine will, it's kind of like supreme destiny. It's divine right. You don't have to write all these things down, but just to kind of emphasize how important this is, I think nefas was used in the prose literature to mean something that completely goes against the gods. It's like the most sinful crime you can possibly commit. So phas is the complete opposite of that. So the most important ordained divine thing ever. And what she's saying here is it wouldn't be phas, it wouldn't be right for him to carry her from Troy. So she is not destined to go with him. And obviously phas is emphatically positioned there to tell him that it would be going against divine will. It would be going against the gods to try and get her out of Troy. And she uses some very grand words here to highlight that. Not only phas there at the end, at the beginning, sorry, but Olympi at the end as well. She's involving the Olympian gods. She's involving Regnator Olympi, which is Jupiter. And she's saying, this is what they have ordained. So it's all very grand. And not only is it going to excuse Aeneas from leaving Creusa, but it's also kind of making more of a big deal of what he's doing. We know he's going to be a hero. He's going to be the future founder of Rome. So this isn't just, oh, you've ditched your wife, don't worry about it. This is, you've ditched your wife, and that is exactly what the gods have declared should happen, kind of thing. Okay.